Hey, we're back for another discussion in sociology. It's chapter 4, social structure. Our first section will be on the building blocks of social structure. Social structure is the network of interrelated statuses and roles that guides human interaction. A status is a socially defined position in society, while a role is the behavior or rights or the rights and obligations attached to a status. A social institution is a system of statuses and roles organized to satisfy one or more society's basic needs. So the main idea for this section is social structure is the network, interrelated statuses and roles that guides human interaction. A status is a socially defined position in society, while a role is a behavior attached to status. So, your focus, and what you should take notes on, and what you should be able to answer at the conclusion of this section, is what do sociologists mean by term status? How are statuses and roles related? And what are social institutions? A status is a social structure, is a network of interrelated statuses and roles that guide human behavior. A status is a socially defined position, while a role is a behavior associated with status. Ascribed and achieved statuses. An ascribed status is assigned according to the qualities beyond a person's control, such as age. Achieved status is acquired through a person's direct effort, such as education. Master status. Most people have many statuses, but a master status is one that plays the greatest role in a person's life. It can be either ascribed or achieved. So your social statuses describes an individual's position in a group or society. Since the individual belongs to more than one group, they have many different statuses. Statuses can be ascribed, given to an individual regardless of his or her abilities, or achieved, gained through the individual's talent, effort, or accomplishments. So, your ascribed status could be whether you're a son or a daughter, sister or a brother, male or female, what your age is, whether and what your ethnic heritage is, whether you're African American, Native American, white, or Asian. Your achieved status would be whether you're a friend or not of somebody, whether you're an employee or a worker, whether you're a student or a teacher, whether you're a team member, and whether you're a classmate. So you see, these are all achieved statuses, while the others are given to you. You can't help but have those. Roles. Role and expectations and role performance. Role expectations are socially determined behaviors expected of a person with a particular status. A role is a performance that is actual behavior of a person with a particular status. They may or not be expected behaviors. A role set is the different roles associated with a particular status. A role conflict occurs when fulfilling the role expectations of one status interferes with a second status. Role strain occurs when a person has difficulty fulfilling the role of one's status, and role exit is the processes people go through to detach from a role that was previously central to their social identity. Role strain and role conflict. Role strain arises when conflicting expectations are built into a single status. Role conflict occurs when conflicting expectations arise from two or more statuses that an individual occupies. So if you are an athlete, you could be the best on the team, or you just don't make the team look bad. And the role strain is being the best on the team and not like making the team look bad. Okay? If you're a student, you could be a team member that attends the practice. You complete your homework and you visit your grandmother, and if granddaughter is your other role. So you have to be able to do all these things, attend your practice, do your homework to maintain your student, and be a good grandchild. Social institution is a group of statuses and roles that are organized to satisfy one or more of the basic needs of society. The family is the most universal social institution, and it takes responsibility for raising the young and teaching them the accepted norms and values. This is cross-cultural. All societies have the family. Economic institution organizes the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. This could differ depending on how a group or nation is organized economically. The political institution is the system of norms that governs the exercise and distribution of power in society. Here again, this is not necessarily cross-cultural or universal, because each society has their own forms of government. Education ensures that the transmission of values, pattern of behavior, and certain skills and knowledge. And so here again, equal access to education is not necessarily the same. However, in all societies, there will be some form of education, either informal or formal. Religion provides a shared collective explanation of the meaning of life. And here in the United States, we have multiple definitions for that. However, that's not necessarily the case in all cultures. Section 2. There are 5 common forms of social interaction: exchange, competition, conflict, cooperation, and accommodation. Exchange, cooperation, and accommodation tend to stabilize the social structure, while competition and conflict tend to encourage social change. So the main idea of this section is sociologists identify 5 common forms of social interaction: exchange, competition, conflict, cooperation, and accommodation. So at the completion of this chapter, or this section, you should have in your notes what is the basis of exchange, what are the similarities and differences between competition and conflict, and why is competition important for society? How do individuals and groups use accommodation to settle disputes? Exchange occurs when people interact in an effort to receive a reward or return for their actions. Reward might be tangible or intangible. Reciprocity is the idea that if you do something for someone, that person owes you something in return. It's the basis of exchange interactions. Exchange theory is the idea that people are motivated by the self-interest in their interactions with other people. The rewarded behavior is repeated. Competition occurs when 2 or more people or groups oppose each other to achieve a goal that only one can attain. Common Western societies are very competitive. Sometimes considered the basis of capitalism and democracy, competition is seen as the source of capitalism and democracy. Competition can lead to psychological stress, a lack of cooperation, and conflict. So competition isn't necessarily the best, because often it leads to conflict. Conflict is the deliberate attempt to control a person by force, to oppose someone, or to harm another person. Conflict has few rules of accepted conduct. conflict can reinforce group boundaries and loyalty. Cooperation occurs when two or more people or groups work together to achieve a goal that will benefit more than one person. The social process that gets things done may be used with competition to motivate members to work hard for the group. Accommodation is the state of balance between cooperation and conflict. Compromise, each party gives up something they want in order to come to an agreement. Mediation is calling in a third party who guides two parties towards an agreement. A truce temporarily brings a halt to competition or conflict until a compromise can be reached. Arbitration is a third party makes a decision that's binding on both parties. Social interaction is the way people relate to one another and influence each other's behavior. The nature of social interaction changes according to the social settings into which it takes place. Sociologists have recognized 5 forms of social interaction: exchange, competition, conflict, cooperation, and accommodation. So, in exchange, the most common form of interaction is exchange. It takes place when people interact with the hope of receiving some reward. The rules of exchange tend to be informal. For instance, wait staff provide good service to customers in hope of receiving a thank you in the form of a good tip. Competition is when two or more people or groups oppose each other to achieve a goal that only one can attain. Competition is taking place. This type of interaction is governed by mutually acceptable formal rules. Traders on the stock exchange floor compete to buy and sell shares at the most advantageous prices. Conflict is the aim of conflict is to oppose, control, or harm a person or group through the use of force. With conflict, rules do not exist or are ignored. Using the military might to control dissent is an example of conflict over ideology. With cooperation, individuals join together to achieve a common goal, usually one that benefits the whole community. Rules, both informal and formal, may play a part in cooperative efforts. People coming together to build houses, for example, is an example of cooperation. Accommodation. With accommodation, conflict and cooperation are balanced. The various forms of accommodation, such as compromise and truce, mediation, and arbitration, tend to be guided by formal rules. The United Nations uses accommodation to find solutions to international conflicts, or at least they try to. Section 3. Types of societies. Sociologists classify societies according to subsistence strategies, or the ways societies use technology to meet the needs of their members. Sociologists recognize 3 broad categories of society: pre-industrial, industrial, and post-industrial. Sociologists classify societies according to how each uses technology to meet the needs of its members. Sociologists recognize 3 broad categories of society: pre-industrial, industrial, and post-industrial. So in your notes for this section, you should be able to, upon completion of this section, you should be able to answer, what are the types of pre-industrial societies? What is the main economic activity in industrial societies? And how do post-industrial societies and industrial societies differ? What concepts have sociologists used to contrast societies? So, pre-industrial. The largest groups studied by sociologists are entire societies. Sociologists characterize societies according to their subsistence strategies. In pre-industrial societies, food production is the main economic activity. So in a hunter-gatherer, in pre-industrial societies, the first that we'll talk about are hunter-gatherer societies. Here, the people will collect wild plants daily. They'll hunt for wild animals, and they move constantly in search of food sources. These kinds of societies can rarely exceed over 100 members because hunting and gathering is a very difficult thing to do with numbers above that. Family is the main social unit. The family is what makes it possible for the work to be done efficiently and effectively. In pastoral societies, they rely on domesticated animals and lead a nomadic life. Fewer people produce food and complex division of labor. They produce some items for trade. So in a pastoral society, you'll follow maybe your herds along to do your food gathering. In a horticultural society, societies become more stable. They grow fruits and vegetables in garden plots. They use slash and burn techniques, which is a type of farming that's very hard on the forest. They move to a new plot when the old one becomes barren, and they build semi-permanent or permanent villages. Village size depends upon the land for farming, and the division of labor creates specialized roles. So the land determines the size of the group and where they're able to live. Economic and political systems are more developed because of the settled lifestyle. They need to be able to account for better for the amount of food produced and where it's going. Agricultural societies, animals are used to plow fields, irrigation increases, crop fields. Many members are able to engage in specialized roles. Cities are formed. Leaders are often hereditary, and they're marked by powerful armies and make construction of roads. In an agricultural society, they abandon the concept of bartering, trading goods for goods, and they start to use things called money. Power is often unequally distributed in an agricultural society. So the first social revolution is the domestication of plants and animals, marked the first great social revolution which completely transformed the way people lived. With the domestication of plants and animals, humans developed a more reliable food supply. This allowed for a larger population that could be supported within the community. As people became, as individual type goods were being produced, a division of labor was created where some people would specialize in one thing while others specialized in another to streamline and make work more effective. Since they have more time because of the agricultural development, there's more time to develop new goods, and so they can start to trade their goods with other countries or other people. Through this trade, some families become very wealthy as they trade the goods, and then with wealth comes power, and new leadership system develops as we become dependent on the economic changes. So the transformation of society. Society was transformed by 4 revolutions: the domestication of plants and animals, the development of agricultural industrialization, and the information age. The domestication revolution was the earliest. Humans were nomadic hunter-gatherers who constantly moved in search of food. About 10,000 years ago, some hunter-gatherers learned how to domesticate plants and animals. This led to a much more settled life. The agrarian revolution took place when the invention of the plow about 6,000 years ago ushered in a second great social revolution. This development of agriculture became the permanent settlements and larger food surpluses. This contributed to the growth of cities, and cities in turn brought new forms of leadership to the people. The next big jump will take place when they have the Industrial Revolution, and with the Industrial Revolution in the late 1700s, the emphasis of society shifted from food production to the production of manufactured goods, and industrialization changed the location of nature of work. It also changed the social structure in industrial societies. Most statuses are achieved. So in the information revolution, which is where we're at now, the development of the computers, the second half of the 1900s, brought about post-industrial society. In this type of society, information is the chief commodity, and most people do not produce any concrete goods rather than apply information to provided services. Industrial societies. In an industrial society, production of food shifts to the production of manufactured goods. Production moves from human and animal labor to machines. It increases food production and population, and the kinds of jobs increase. Location of work changes to cities away from the home, and social processes such as education take place in the family. In post-industrial societies, the emphasis is on creation and exchange of information and services instead of manufactured goods. The United States uses post-industrial. The United States is a post-industrial society. We are no longer mostly manufacturing. Now we tend to manufacture ideas and transport and information and data. Standard of living has improved in the post-industrial society. The education and sciences are important. And finally, technological advances are seen as key. Preindustrial societies held together by mechanical solidarity. Their societal relationship was based on values, and their Gemeinschaft, there was a strong sense of group solidarity. Traditionally, values are strong. Industrial societies are held together by organic solidarity. Societal relationships are based on the need of Gesellschaft, which is the needs of society, where Gemeinschaft is the needs of the community. Relationships are impersonal, and often temporary. Their traditional values are weak. So the new barter. One major development of agricultural societies was the creation of a money system. The system replaced the idea of barter, but bartering has made a comeback. As many as 450,000 companies barter in America today. They trade goods and services through the exchange of a barter exchange. A barter exchange makes money on other barter transactions. So with computer technology, bartering becomes easier. The barter allows companies to buy goods or services without using cash. rapid growth of bartering is a changing economy for the United States. Section 4, groups within society. Groups are the foundation of social life. They differ in the terms of size and life and organization and purpose. Groups perform important functions such as setting membership boundaries, choosing leaders, and fulfilling goals and controlling members' behavior. So our main idea for this section is groups are the foundation of social life, and they differ in terms of size, organization, and purpose. Groups also perform many important functions. So at the completion of this section, you should have in your notes, how do sociologists define the term group? What types of groups do sociologists recognize? What are the main functions of a group? Well, let's define groups. First off, we use size. Is it a small group or is it a large group? Then we talk about its quality. Is it intimate or formal? Four features. Is it two or more people? Is it interaction occur between members? Do they share expectations and must possess a sense of common identity to be considered a group? Aggregate is a gathering of people without lasting organization. Social categories are people with shared trait and statuses do not interact with each other. Size. A dyad is 2 people. A triad is 3. 15 is the largest number that works well as a group. After that, it becomes a crowd. A group can be one-time meeting or a lifetime interaction. It is not continuous and there are breaks. Organization. A formal group has clearly defined structure and goals and activities. An informal group has no official structure or rules of conduct. So a formal group might be your civic group that you belong to, where an informal group might be you and a bunch of your friends hanging out. There are many kinds of groups. Most people belong to several different kinds of groups. Primary groups is the most intimate type, the fundamental in forming the social nature and ideals of an individual. Small groups that interact over a long period of time on a personal basis. It involves an entire self of a member. Secondary groups are the interaction is impersonal and temporary. They involve only part of the member's self. Casual and limited, the importance of a person is linked to his or her function. Members can be replaced. A group with whom reference groups. A reference group is a group with whom an individual identifies and whose attitudes and values are adopted. They can have both positive and negative effect on behavior. The in-group is any group that a person belongs to and identifies with. The out-group is any group with the person does not belong to or identify with. Electronic communities have arisen with the arrival of the internet. Some reflect primary group dynamics. Social networks are the web of relationships across groups that occurs because of many groups people belong to. There are no clear boundaries. Group functions. They define boundaries. They use uniforms, gestures, handshakes, or language to be able to identify the boundaries. They select leaders. Leaders influence the attitudes and opinions of others within the group. Their instrumental leaders help find specific means that will help the group reach its goals. Expressive leaders find ways to keep the group together and maintain morale. They define purpose. They set goals, assign tasks, they make decisions, control members and behavior. Section 5. The structure and formal organizations. The structure of formal organizations. Formal organizations are complex secondary groups. They're created to achieve specific goals. Most are structured as bureaucracies. Max Weber noted that all bureaucracies, regardless of their goals or purposes, have common characteristics. Formal and informal structures can affect the efficiency of bureaucracy. So our main idea in this section is formal organizations are complex secondary groups created to achieve specific goals. Most are structured as bureaucracies, and formal and informal structures can affect the efficiency of the bureaucracies. So how do sociologists view formal organizations? What are the main characteristics of Max Weber's model of bureaucracies? Third, what types of relationships are found in formal organizations? And 5, what problems do bureaucrats face? These are the things that you should be able to put in your notes upon completion of this section. Formal organizations are large, complex secondary groups that have been established to achieve specific goals. Schools, businesses, religious organizations, and labor unions are examples of formal organizations. A bureaucracy is a ranked authority structure that operates according to their specific rules and procedures. Bureaucracies existed in ancient Egypt and China, but rose to prominence during the Industrial Revolution. Rationality involves subjecting every feature of human behavior to calculation, measurement, and control. Industrialization has increased the degree of rationalism in our society. Weber's model of bureaucracy is that there is a division of labor. Work is divided among specialists. Ranking of authority. Here are the lines, there are clear-cut lines of responsibility. And oftentimes people will not work outside their clear-cut definition. Employment based on formal qualification. Individuals are hired on the basis of tests, education, or experience. Workers are replaceable. Written rules and regulations. They're objective rules and they identify each person's responsibility. Specific lines of promotion and advancement. Lines of promotion reward loyalty with job security and seniority. Organizations fit this type of varying degree. Some, like voluntary associations, may vary with the abilities of volunteers. Informal structures are based on strong primary relationships, and they may exist within the most common rigid bureaucracies. They call the bureaucracy's other face. They were first noted in research in studying the Western Electric Company and conformity to the norm enforced through negative sanctions. Weber's bureaucracy. Views in bureaucracy in a positive light. The best way to organize large numbers of people is to attain a large goal. They create order by clearly defining tasks. and they provide stability. Flaws in bureaucracy is that several significant weaknesses take place. There's no longer fulfill original goals. A new goal might be a self-continuation of the bureaucracy. It encourages bureaucratic personality. It creates alienation among its employees. And often it results in oligarchy, a tendency to labeled the iron rule of oligarchy, which rule of the few. McDonaldization of society. Max Weber suggested that society progressed, it would become increasingly guided by rules, regulations, and formal structure. George Richter called this tendency the McDonaldization. By McDonaldization, he's referring to how each society is becoming more like another. So there's four aspects to McDonaldization: efficiency, calculability, predictability, and control. Operations are performed to maintain specific guidelines and maximize efficiency. Uniformity across production lines results in uniform products. The pros are it's convenient and familiar. It doesn't matter if you go to McDonald's in New York or McDonald's in Texas. They're still basically the same. The cons are the removal of the human aspect. There's no room for invention or innovation. Reduction of face-to-face interactions because the bureaucracy can handle it. So this concludes our discussion for this chapter, and we will continue on next time.